Hi everyone! So it's time to find out the books that I'm going to be reading next. So here are the next 5, and I am so super excited for these ones, guys. And I've specifically picked them because of my holiday that's going to be coming up. I've got 3 weeks before my week off from work, and I have specifically chosen the book that I'm going to be reading over that holiday week. I knew that was the book I was going to read at the beginning of this year for that holiday week, so I'm like, I finally get to it. So let's go through the 5 books. So the first one is The Silent Companions by Laura Purcell. Now I read Bone China, her 3rd novel, what was it, a couple of weeks ago now, or a few weeks ago, and I absolutely loved it. And that's her 3rd novel. This is her 1st novel, and I am actually going to be reading this alongside my friend Sarah. So she after I finished reading Bone China, because my sister, the 3 of us talk constantly, like every day, and my sister had read all of Laura's books. We were both buzzing about it. So she got Bone China, she loved it. So she's like, right, you're going to read the next Laura's other books. I want to read them with you. So we're going to be reading them together, and I'm so excited. So the first one is The Silent Companions. And this is about Elsie, who is a newlywed, and she's pregnant, and she's sent to the house of that house her husband owns off in like the countryside. And there's no one really around apart from a few servants and a wooden doll that is like a silent companion in the house who looks a lot like Elsie. And that just, oh my God, that sends chills through me. That really does send chills through me, just that description. So I am so excited to be starting this on Monday, and I will be reading along with Sarah. So after that, I then want to explore more horror kind of stuff. So it's time to visit The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. Now, if you remember, I had read We Have Always Lived in the Castle last year. It was like one of the first books I read last year, and I didn't get along with it. But I find Shirley Jackson, just because, you know, the story narrative, it was very weird. But I really liked Shirley Jackson's writing. I thought she was a very interesting writer. And I love The Haunting of Hill House, which, you know, the Netflix drama, and The Haunting of Bly Manor, which the latter one is loosely based on The Turn of the Screw, and The Haunting of Hill House obviously is loosely based on The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And so I want to read it, and it's all about it. Well, the Netflix film is about a family, Netflix series is about a family who lives in Hill House and the things that they encounter and how they're affected. Whereas the book follows a group of basically kind of ghost hunters, and also the heir of the house, going around the house and learning, finding out about the ghosts who live there and stuff like that, and the creepiness that the souls who are trapped in the house. So I'm really excited to read this, I have to say. It's going to be a really interesting read. So, as I mentioned before, I'm going to be reading a book with Sarah, and we can't just have, you know, read one and then wait forever for the final book. We have to read it pretty straight away. So the 3rd book I'll be reading is The Corset by Laura Purcell. So this one follows a woman who is married, and she's quite a wealthy woman, and she ends up, because of like charity work, should I say, connected, you know, through her husband and all this lot, she ends up going to a woman's prison and encountering a poor woman who is there for murder. And it's all about the connections that these characters have, and of discovering why this girl is in prison, and did she actually commit murder. So I'm quite excited, and once again, Sarah and I will be reading along. I'd be quite, you know, interested to see what she thinks of these books, and I'm happy to, in my review, to let you know what she thought as well. Have a second person, as it were, be a part of the review, even though it's just me filming away in my little house. But yeah, so I find the Silent Companions, that just chills me through. This one intrigues me more, and just, yeah, and I love Laura's writing. She's so gothic, and her structuring is just beautiful, beautiful. So I'm so excited to read Silent Companions and then the Corset. Then, as I said, I've got 3 weeks of working, and then I've got my week off. So those 3 books are for those 3 weeks. And then for my week off, it has to be the Goliath, the mammoth book that is Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare, the final book in the Dark Artificers book, Dark Artificers trilogy, shall I say. 880 pages of beauty. I'm really quite buzzed for this. I'm not going to that you know really what the story is about, because this is the final book of the trilogy, and in order to explain to you, I would have to spoil stuff that's happened in book 1 and 2, and I don't want to do that. But it's Cassandra Clare, a final book of a trilogy, and it's a brick. So I think this is perfect for my week off from work, to have a book like this to dedicate to read, and I am really looking forward to this. The previous book just absolutely, it ended in the middle of a battle, and it was just like, Cassandra had never ended a book like that before, of a second book of a trilogy. So I was just a bit like, oh damn, just, yeah, wow, how am I going to be able to handle that after reading that, dealing with not being able to get to the 3rd book. But as I said, because my work, the busiest time of year for us is right after Christmas until around April, and I knew that I would need shorter books to read after work and such. I didn't want a big thing, because I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to focus and such, and so thus leaving this big baby, as it were, for my week off just was the perfect thing to do, I think. So for my week off, I'll be reading Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. And then the final book I will be reading, or in this announcement, is one that has again caused quite a bit of a buzz, and I'm quite intrigued by it, and it's The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So this is about a woman who has reached the point where she has gone through so much, and she feels like killing herself is the only way out. She has suffered some really horrific stuff, and then she wakes up and finds herself in the Midnight Library. And the Midnight Library is called that because it's always at midnight, and it's a library. It's full of books, but the books, instead of being books as you would see in a library, they are actually different versions of her life if certain things were different. So like, say if she hadn't broken up with her boyfriend, or she hadn't gone to university, that kind of thing. And then there's some really life-shifting stuff, like what if she'd had a family, what if she had won the lottery, all that kind of stuff. And she goes through these books, these kind of portals to these different versions of her life, and learns about herself. And it's it's kind of a story about healing and discovering who you are. And so I'm really intrigued to read The Midnight Library. I've never read any of Matt's works, so and I've been told it's really, really good. And I actually had a friend recommend me, a friend at work recommended me one of his earlier books, and she assumed that I had read one of Matt's books before, and I was like, no, he's a renowned writer, but I just haven't gotten around to his books. And she said, I think he would really suit you for books that you like to read. So I was like, okay, I'm quite quite excited. So let's see what the Midnight Library brings. So there we go, guys. Those are the next 5 books I'll be reading. Ooh, let's flip them over. So in the order I'll be reading them, we've got The Silent Companions, ooh, The Haunting of Hill House, The Corset, The Queen of Air and Darkness, and The Midnight Library. So yeah, I will be sending reviews of those as soon as I've finished reading them. And yeah, and the ones I'll be reviewing with my good friend Sarah, I will let you know what she thinks as well. All right, guys, bye.